Hi, I'm alish578 and I'm here for the individual oral code screencast. So let's quickly go through the server. We have talked about the server in the mid screencast, so I will not spend much time here. So it's a simple Express app. We're using the uh, high limit for the images, and this is new, the course. We were not able to set up a proxy with the client. I don't know why. We put the proxy in the package JSON, but it was still not routing us correctly. So we allowed everything. I know this is risky, but we're not using this in production because in production magically that same proxy works. So yeah, we are serving the front end with the backend Express app. I know this introduces module coupling, but yeah, deployment is not the focus of this course, right? So uh, let's go through some routes quickly. Uh, for example, in this user, yeah, we're using this custom validator I talked about in the last video. And for example, in sign up, we check if the user already exists with these simple queries, and then if it doesn't, with bcrypt, we hash the password with some salt, and it creates a new user, send back the ID, and sign the token. This is a very high expiry time, but we change it in the production. And yeah, same thing for sign in. We compare it with bcrypt because the hash password cannot be compared by us directly. Sign the token again. And in change password, we do the same thing. If the credentials match, if the password match, then we update the password field with this new password after hashing it. In profile, uh, yeah, this is a big one. So the create and update profile, we have this add route for creating and updating. So it's kind of a big route. So from the body, after checking the necessary fields, we start making different objects for each one by assigning simply their value. In hobbies, like we trim it so that it looks nicely without any spaces. And in the optional fields, we first check if the field is available, then we make the object for it. And yeah, this part, so here we're doing the cloudinary thing. So there are a lot of different conditions to check if the user is sending, for example, if the user is setting a new profile and sending an image. So we have these upload image, get default image. This is in the case when user does not provide an image. And so in that case, we are getting a default image that we have already set up on the Cloudinary. And in all these cases, we are getting back the public ID and the secure URL that we save in database. So our database is not blocked with a lot of images. It only has these two strings that are referring to the Cloudinary. And while we're talking about Cloudinary, let me just show that quickly. So here in Cloudinary, we set the config that we have stored here in the default JSON. That's also where we store the database config. So uh, for uploading, we get the image and the preset. Preset is basically the folder that we want to send in. For example, if we want to set this image in the profile folder or the post folder, and so we upload it, and in the response there's a lot of things, but we only need these two, public ID and secure URL. We need public ID so that we can delete that image when the user wants or when it is deleting its profile, and secure URL is like the public image URL that we will use to display it on the front end. And in default, we go to default folder and get the first default image. Okay, moving on. Yeah, we were in the profile. And yeah, so since it is a create or update, so with the new ones, we say that if there is some new things, just update them. Otherwise, for us, create a new profile and then save it. Simply for the all profiles, we find everything without any condition, and then from the user model we also concatenate the first name and last name so that uh, we can use them on the front end easily. We can get the single profile with the ID. We can get the current user, delete the current user, and of course here we are also deleting the image from Cloudinary. We don't want any leaks where we delete the reference to the user but the image still exists on the Cloudinary. And same things with post, get the models, check the request, and uh, in post it is uh, very crucial to have an image. It's okay if there is no caption, but the image is necessary, so we upload that image. And same thing, like in profile, we get the posts. We can get a single post, delete post, with put request, we're doing the likes. So here we're going through the likes, every like, and at the end we're just pushing a new user. So that's how it's working. Uh, in unlike, it's the same thing, except we remove that, yes, specific user with it with the index, and then we send the whole likes again. Comment, same thing, but the good thing in comment is that we also get the ID of the comment that we want to delete. So we do not have to like go through each comment. We can just uh, while deleting, we can just use the dot remove. And yeah, so this auth route is basically used to authenticate user for the on the front end to check if the user is allowed to go to a specific route or not, because here we're sending the whole user and we set that in the Redux state, and the actual authentication is happening here in the middleware. So uh, as you can see that for every route that is private, we are using the auth middleware here. So which is this one, and it basically check if there is a request, is there a token in the request, and then verifies it with the JWT secret that we have in the config. Okay, yeah, some models. I think I've shown all of these in the previous video, so not much to go in these. And yeah, while we're here, let's even talk about the Docker Compose. The Docker files, we are basically using them for making our containers. But the thing is, if I go to like client and Docker, we're still using the development build and not the production. That's why we have not deployed it on Heroku. It's still running in locally, but it does work. Okay, time to come to the main thing, client. So first of all, let's go to the index and show that we're using alertify.js to have those neat alerts that are very responsive and have great transition animations. And then we have some bootstrap CDNs, and that's about it for this one. In the source, before talking about React, let's just talk about Redux, because Redux pained us very much in the whole process. Uh, we had some knowledge of React, but Redux was very new to us, so we we took some time to learn it. It was very confusing. So just to show you some of the files, so we set up a store and we use the compose with dev tools so that we can use it with the Redux extension. And we need root reducer because we have a lot of reducers, and but the store only gets one, so it combines all the reducers. And then there's this thunk middleware. I had to do a lot of reading on Redux docs to get this working. As basically this is used so that we can use asynchronous request between action and dispatch. The dispatch has to be synchronized, so we cannot do anything asynchronous in dispatch. So this thunk middleware does the thing. Yeah, the name is very intuitive. So between the action and the dispatch, it does all the asynchronous work. And then we create the store. Uh, Let me show you the actions. So all the constants are here. In auth, we have this load user that we hit on that API that I showed you earlier, the auth, so that the whole user is loaded. And for every action, we are sending type and payload, and that corresponds to whatever we are getting back from the data. And we're using Axios for the requests, not the fetch API. And yeah, of course, since these are remote calls, so everything has to be in try catch, right? Sign up action, yeah, get the form data and send it with the request, post request, sign in, same thing, different route, and sign out, yeah. In sign out, we clear everything from the state also because we're going back. And in profile, basically the same thing. I don't think I should go through all of them, but you get the idea. We set this Axios request, get back the data, and dispatch it as an action. And yeah, this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. So, oh yeah. Here when we're deleting, we also do this alertify.confirm so that an alert comes for yes or no. If we click yes, then the action is dispatched, otherwise not. So naturally, after doing the action, we go to the reducers, right? So for example, in this auth reducer, in reducer, what we do is we set the state according to what action has been performed. So for example, when the user is loaded, we say that uh, uh, it is authorized and it is loaded. We are using this is loaded many times at many places because uh, that's where we determine if the data is ready to be shown. Otherwise, it shows a loading image like a GIF. And we set the token and we remove the token. Yeah, you can see the beauty of using a switch. We can wrap all these cases with uh, one response, right? And yeah, I should mention that whenever we return the state, we return whatever is before already in the state, and then we do what we want to do with that state. And yeah, so same thing with post. In post, what we do, it's mostly related to post single and post multiples. So when we're getting one, we set the other one to false, I mean null, so that it does not interfere. Since likes is the payload for likes is just the whole likes, we do the update like for both like and unlike. Add comment, same thing. Remove comment, we since we have deleted it from the database, so on the UI we just have to get that comment ID and filter it out here. Yeah, that is all for Redux. We spent so much time uh, getting all this. So let's go, start with React. So we first of all set the header token, and this one is in the utilities here. Basically, we set for every Axios request, we set the authentication token, right? And here we're setting the store, wrapping everything in store, and then router, and then switch, right? We have all the main routes in this single route component. And use effect, yeah, let me talk about the use effect. So uh, this is a React hook that is used whenever we want to change something. When it is used when we want to refresh the UI if something changes. So first of all, we do this load user and this empty array, weird syntax, right? But this is called the dependency array. So if there's anything in this and that changes, so the UI reloads again. And now let's go through some components. First of all, we have these routes, right, where we have all the routes, and we're using an extra component called private route uh, whenever we are not authenticated. It only goes to these routes, right? And in private route component, that's standard stuff. So we get what the component has been passed, and if there's any extra props for that component that we are going to route to, and we check, we pass everything to that route, and we use this render with the props and check if the user is authenticated, send it to that page. Otherwise, yeah, you're not going through. And while we're here, let's also talk about this thing, connect. So in React, whenever we want to use state management for Redux, we have to do this connect with the React Redux package, and uh, whatever piece of state we want in that component, because our store has everything, right? So whatever is related in this component, we take that from the state and give it to the props so that we can use it up here in the props for that component. And yeah, that's just the standard way of requiring. I can just delete it and nothing happens. It's just a good check. And let's go to home. I will, yeah, I will not talk about most of the markup here, and neither the CSS, right? Uh, That's the basic stuff that we learned in the previous course. But of course, I should mention that we are using a lot of Bootstrap and then these simple tweaks for desktop and mobile. Yeah, I don't think it's worth getting into. So back in our home, where it is, yeah, here. uh, we're using the actually let's go down here. So we are getting whatever we need from the state, and in this connect we also have to specify if we are performing any redux actions, so we have to perform specify them here before connecting this. We get the things we need from the state, and in home we check, yeah, you can see the dependency array working here. So when we get the current profile, uh, it refreshes based on that. So if there is a profile, if there's no profile, it's give us the spinner, which is just a simple dumb component that's playing a GIF. And yeah, back in home, what else is there? Yeah, if there's no profile, but the user has logged in, we say that we show these different buttons based on that, as you have seen in our demo. So here we're saying create profile if there is no user. Otherwise, we're saying the update profile. And while we're here, let's also talk about the use state hook. So basically, it's an immutable object that we cannot directly change. We have to use this function to change it. And here in this example, it's just a Boolean state that we use to toggle the buttons. So when the button is pressed or not, based on that, we just put show that component. And yeah, let's go ahead with the landing is basically dumb, right? Oh, yeah, I should mention that we're using from the React responsive package this extremely useful thing called use media query, where it just gives us the width of the uh, current canvas, so we can use check if it is for the mobile or not. So based on that, we're changing the image, and we have also used this in other components as well. Navbar, uh, there's a different set of links that we want to show. So if the user is not authenticated, show sign in, sign up. Otherwise, show the uh, like the home, the profile, and here we also check. Uh, Here we're routing to that profile. And I know this looks dumb. We could have used the double AND for the single if statement, but this link was not allowing it, so we had to use this empty. And what else? We're using the username. We check the authentication, simple stuff. Let's go to profile, right? Yeah, so create profile and update profile, they're very similar. So the thing is that we're using this form data state that we have all these things in, and we extract them so that we can use them in our actual markup for the for that thing that we want to update. And for every on every change, we set the form data uh, that whatever it is, whatever there is already, do that and then change this thing. On submit, prevent default as always, of course, we don't want to route to any page. And then we call the action. And we're passing the history because we also want to redirect after. We don't want to stay on that create profile component after the profile has been created. We go back to the home. And quickly let's talk about this selected image. So we are using, what we're doing is we want to convert the image that has been uploaded to the base 64 encoded URL. I think that's the right word. So we get the image. We only get the one image, right? There's no way to get many. We read it. We After this action is done, this onloaded is called, and when it is called, we set every state that we have, for example, for preview source, so that a user can see in the actual form data for the request, and then the image state. Yeah. Uh, oh, uh, uh, yeah, we have actually hidden the actual ugly button for uploading, and just we can click on the image to see it. We also show the default image. Yeah, simple markup, right? Similarly, in update profile, yeah, sorry, I should mention that here in create profile, we're not using any state, right? So there is no state to props, but in update profile, we do use that because we want the previously loaded state. And oh my God, this looks horrible. I don't know what else to do. We check if everything is there, whatever is there, just put it in state, and we're doing all this in use effect. And in our whole app, this is one place where we get the warning that we should add this profile to the dependency array also. But if we do that, we cannot actually update the profile. So I don't know what is the solution, but it is working. It's just a warning, yellow warning, right? We can ignore it. Basically the same thing for everything, just like in create profile. So in our all the profiles, this is what we show on the discover page. uh, we show these profiles, and then we call the get all profile action, right, in use effect the first time the page is loaded. And after getting all these profiles in the state, we use them to map through them, and for each profile we have another component called profiles item. And in here we basically list each block of that uh, UI for everyone, different depending on the name and all those things, right? We get them here in the props because back here we're passing this whole profile that we get from the get all profile, so it has everything like name, URL, city, country, everything. We do that in profile items. And then there is single profile. And yeah, this is the new thing, div ref. So this is, we're using another hook here called use ref. So this is a reference. We're basically using this whenever the user click on posts in the single profile, it will automatically scroll down. So to do that, we are simply doing that. We have a empty reference here, so it scrolls down to that one, so that user does not have to do it manually. But this is only in desktop, because in mobile that looks weird. And single profile, whatever we get from the profile, we show it. And yeah, here you can see depending on the gender, we change the gender icon. Same stuff, if something is present, show it, otherwise not. In hobbies, we map because hobby is an array. Mm, mm. Yeah, we have button toggles here also that I talked about in the home. And yeah, let's go to the post now. Oh my God, it's already almost half hour. I'll try to wrap it up, sorry. So in post, basically the same thing. For each post, we map through a single post item, and in single post item, we have all the data from the user that we pass it in the post as props. And in single post, we call that action like always. I think you have seen the flow of how the Redux is working, right? First of all, we get everything from the state, and you can see here whatever action we perform and whatever we want from the state. And more standard markup thing. Oh, we're using this moment library to format the date very nicely. Otherwise, it's a ugly string from the MongoDB Atlas. We're setting the toggle button. I've talked this already. Yeah, so yeah, this is a little weird. So we have this user posts. We will map through all posts. So this is uh, the post of single user, and this is the post of all users. They're basically copy pasted the same component, and the only difference is this action here. Here we call the user action, and here we call the all. Sorry, here we call the where it is. Sorry, uh, get user all posts, and in the post we call get all posts. This is the only difference. So I try to make it that there is only one component and we only change this thing action based on whatever is passed. Like for example, if we go to routes, yeah, so here when we are sending this to this post, we set a another prop here that what action we want to call, if it is a user or the all profiles. But the thing is, it was not working. I don't know why. I tried when we get that variable here in props, right? We said that whether it is user or the all posts. But the problem comes here when we want to connect this, when we want to tell Redux that we are using that action. So if it is a variable, it does not work. I don't know why it needs the exact same action name here. So that's why it's basically same component, but we are using it twice. I know a lot of waste of all this code, but what can we do, right? Same thing, single post, uh, post item. What's is the left hand thing? Oh, comment. Yeah, let's quickly talk about them. So in comments list, here we're also checking that we can delete a comment only if it matches with our ID. And we're calling the remove comment action directly from this button. In add comment, we're setting that state, and after adding the state, we also set it back to like nothing, so that, oh, now that I realize it's a space, it should be nothing so that we don't have anything in the comment text box again. And yeah, we don't need any state. So, oh, I I totally forgot to go talk about these login things. So basically the same thing, we set the state and then we change it in form data and call the action, right? Exact same thing in sign up, different fields, same thing. In change password, one thing that we do is after changing password, we kick the user out so that it can log in with the new password. And the standard markup. Uh, is there anything else left? I do not think so. Oh my God. It's been 30 minutes. Okay, thank you so much. Goodbye.